إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه
بسم
وسلموا
الله
تسليما.
الذي لا إله سواه الواحد الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد، طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار والبصائر وضيائها. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I pray that all of you are well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the time that we spend together a time of His earnest remembrance, subhanahu. May He make it a time of beneficial knowledge, beneficial ilm. That beneficial ilm, as you know, is ilm that leads me to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in two fundamental ways. Number one, that I develop an experiential tawheed. I develop an emotional, spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And I beautify, I ornament, I embellish my inner character, my akhlaq. May Allah Ta'ala make this seminar for me a dhikr, a remembrance, and a means of beneficial knowledge. As you know, Hafidhukumullah, we are awaiting the guest of Ramadan. And this reminder, we could say, is our way of welcoming the guest of Ramadan. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam, in a text, he begins the text, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَمَضَانٌ. Verily, Ramadan has come to you. قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَمَضَانٌ. And جاء is used in the Arabic language for an animate being. قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ. جاء is used oftentimes for an animate creation, an animate being. And that's how he, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, described Ramadan. That personification of grace, that personification of a gift. Ramadan as it were, a guest. How do I receive the guest of Ramadan? So we would say that first we need to learn about the guest. This guest of Ramadan, this creation of Allah of Ramadan, that will be visiting each and every one of us shortly, if Allah gives us the life to live to Ramadan. How do we know him? How do we learn about him? And how do we subsequently treat Ramadan? How do we host Ramadan, if you like? So, we're going to be learning, insha'Allah ta'ala, about ilm of Ramadan, some aspects of ilm of Ramadan. We're going to be learning about the amal of Ramadan, how to receive Ramadan, what to do in Ramadan. And we're also going to be, insha'Allah ta'ala, launching, one might say, a type of suhbah, with one another, a fellowship, a companionship throughout Ramadan, by which we can remind ourselves about Ramadan and how to interact and how to treat Ramadan. The first important aspect of welcoming Ramadan is ilm, sacred knowledge. Who is Ramadan? So to begin, this is a very brief selection of aspects of Ramadan. Certainly not all, but brief aspects about this guest of Ramadan and why it is so important to host him well. Number one, Ramadan is bringing the most important gift for me and for you. That premium gift of Ramadan is the gift of taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, and I think all of us know, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed for you. Fasting has been prescribed for you. So kutiba means obligated. But in this context, prescribed in the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to help me. Allah ta'ala wants to prescribe something for me in a way like the doctor prescribes a medication. In a way like the doctor prescribes a medication. That is, how can I become healthy? How can I live a quality life? Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Ramadan and Siyam, fasting in Ramadan, has been prescribed for you, written for you, ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His loving compassion and grace and generosity and wisdom. As it was prescribed to those who came before you, and here is the important aspect of the ayah that we want to truly understand and embrace. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. In order that you would attain the gift of taqwa. So Ramadan is bringing a gift for me if I host Ramadan well. And what is the gift of Ramadan? Allah says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained and prescribed fasting, that you may achieve taqwa. What is taqwa? Linguistically, taqwa is al-hifdhu wal-sawn wal-himaya. Taqwa is to preserve something, to protect something, to guard something. That's taqwa. In the context of the language as well, if we say waqa shay'a, which is the root of taqwa, it means hamahu wa sanahu min al-adha. Waqa shay means to protect it and guard it from any harm, from anything that would hurt it. Taqwa indeed is a state of my qalb, a state of my spiritual heart. Taqwa is not an idea. Taqwa is not a mental construct or concept. Taqwa is a state of my heart, the state of my qalb, the way it is in reality. And it's such a state, as we saw from the meanings, that if my heart is in a state of taqwa, it is strong and it has the ability to preserve me, to protect me in my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning that I have a heart that can be strong enough to stay away from what Allah prohibits. And it's a qalb, it's a heart in the state of taqwa that has the ability to do what Allah commands and what He loves. That's taqwa. A state of my qalb, a strength of my qalb, a health of my qalb, of my heart, to allow me to seek infinite beauty and infinite majesty. And Allah is infinite beauty and Allah is infinite majesty. And yes, there are levels of taqwa. To stay away from that which is prohibited, haram, is a level. To stay away from that which is detestable but allowed is another level. To stay away from that which is superfluous and extra, that's another level. To stay away from that which simply does not benefit me, though it is permissible, is another level. To do what Allah commanded me to do, what is obligatory, is a level of taqwa. To do beyond what is commanded, what Allah loves, is another level of taqwa. And therefore, this gift of taqwa from the guest of Ramadan is for every one of us at our level. Every one of us is meant to receive a gift personal to him or her in attaining taqwa or in raising in degrees of taqwa. We could also say taqwa is a means to seek the ultimate objective in existence, which is love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taqwa is the means by which I seek and I gain Allah's love, the love of the infinite subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can say that taqwa is a means by which I live a life of happiness, true happiness, life, liberty, and happiness, but true life, true liberty, true happiness, and true freedom. Therefore, what is Eid? What is Eid? Eid is when before Ramadan leaves, Ramadan gives me the gift of taqwa. That's Eid. Because then I have attained what Ramadan came for. The gift. I get the gift. And I want the gift. Those 30 days are to strive and work to attain the gift. And the gift, we said, of taqwa is the true Eid. Eid is attaining the gift of taqwa because I fasted in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Shaykh Aziz Hudai, Qaddasallahu Sirra, he says, he who fasts from passing pleasures at the Eid knows love itself. From his poetry. He who fasts, truly fasts in Sawm from passing pleasures, the pleasures of haram, the pleasures of the prohibited, and the other levels of pleasures, the gift of such a person is that at the Eid, he or she will know love, capital L, love itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the Eid. Allah is the ultimate Eid. But attaining Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's nearness is only obtained through the state of taqwa. Now, if that is true, and it is true, because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says it's true, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it's true in His word. Memo to self. Did I really fast? How many years did I live? How many Ramadans did I experience? Let's say 20. If every Ramadan I am gaining the gift of taqwa, which is the gift if I fast properly, then with 20 gifts of taqwa, and each year getting better and better and better, I should be very near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by now. No? Does that make sense? I should be very near to Allah by now. If every Ramadan I have an Eid of taqwa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 20, some of us 30, some of us 40. That's a lot of taqwa that I should have been gaining. Did I? Did I? Did I move up the spiritual spectrum? Did I leave more haram with every passing year? Did I leave more detestable things every passing year? Did I do all of what Allah commands me to do with 20, 25 Ramadans that I have fasted? Did I increase in doing more beloved acts, mustahabbat, beloved acts to Allah in all of the fasting? And if I did not, then I must ask myself, why? Why am I not progressing? Why, after a consecutive sequence of years of Ramadan, I'm not changing? Or I'm not changing enough? Or I'm not changing in a way that is noticeable and observable by the way I interact with Allah Ta'ala's law, the Shara. So, have I fasted? Have I truly fasted? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in a text, in a generic text, ما من عبد يصوم يوما في سبيل الله. There is no abd that fasts one day. One day. And this is not in Ramadan. Ramadan is more emphasized, more blessed than any other day. But in an ordinary day, someone fasts fi sabilillah, underline, in the way of Allah. Not just fasts, fast in the way of Allah Ta'ala. إلا بعد الله بذلك اليوم وجهه عن النار 70 خريفا. Except if I do that for one day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause such a person to be distant from the hellfire 70 seasons or spring times. The point here is what? Hafidhukumullah. Whoever fasts fi sabilillah, not simply fasts, but fasts in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore we learn fasting has a reality. Fasting has a spirit to truly fast. And we find this in the text of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam very profusely. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Jazakallah khairan Sidi Rafat. If you could ask them, please. First, the sanctity of the masjid, and then the dars. رب صائم ليس له من صيامه إلا الجوع ورب قائم ليس له من قيامه إلا السهر. Allahu Akbar. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, perchance, or even many, a fasting person does not benefit from their fast except hunger. And many of those who stand in prayer, and this could be Taraweeh or the other salawat, they don't attain anything of their standing except fatigue and tiredness. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, speaking now about the spirit of fasting. That's what I want to emphasize for myself. Fasting has a spirit. Fasting has a reality. And if I'm not fasting in the spirit of fasting, I will not benefit from the fasting. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة في أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. Said the one who does not leave false talk, slanderous talk, Allah Ta'ala doesn't have any need for him or her to leave food and drink. So if I'm fasting, but I'm disobeying Allah Ta'ala with my tongue, with my limbs, Allah says that fasting is valueless with me. In another text, quoted by Imam Ahmad and others, 2 women were fasting in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the story continues, they were very sick and ill. And then he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, bring them to me. And they came. And then he said, bring a bowl. And he put the bowl in front of them, these 2 women. And he said, basically, vomit into the bowl. And one of them vomited blood and flesh and pus, half the bowl. And then he told the other one, you vomit. They were both fasting. And she vomited the same, blood and pieces of meat and pus, until the bowl was full. And then he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, inna hatain صامتا amma أحل الله. These 2, they fasted away from what Allah allowed. وأفطرتا على ما حرم الله. But they broke their fast by consuming that which Allah had prohibited, because they sat and they engaged in backbiting, speaking about other people that which would hurt them if they heard. And that was it. And so he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they broke their fast not by ingesting food and drink. They broke their fast by disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that eating the flesh of others by backbiting, it literally was what they expurged from themselves. Again, the reality and the spirit of fasting. Hafidhakumullah. And therefore, the ulama, they say there are 3 levels of fasting. And all of them, by the way, all of them at one level are obligatory. All of them are obligatory. But 3 levels first level is the level that I know, and the level you know, which is what? Stay away from food and drink and intimacy. We all know that one. That's level 1. Level 2, which is obligatory, is my senses must fast from the haram. My eyes must fast. My tongue must fast. My ears must fast. We already said my stomach must fast. My sexual organs must fast. 5. My hands must fast. My feet must fast. That's the second level of fasting that I emphasize for myself is not optional. Because I can't use my senses to commit the haram, then my senses have not fasted. And the third level of fasting is to fast from my heart away from what Allah prohibits me to have in my heart and mind and emotions. Diseases of the heart, or we could say inner sins, arrogance, lack of gratefulness, vulgarity, lack of thankfulness, lack of patience, excessive anger, all of those diseases of the heart that we have learned about in the Tazkiyah purification module in the seminary at length this year. All of those diseases of the heart, they break my fast at the spiritual level. And therefore, my heart must fast from the inner sins or the sins of the heart. The point is to fast truly with the spirit of fasting means my stomach fasts, my limbs, my senses fast, and my heart fasts as well. Now, if I fast in this way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant me through Ramadan the gift of taqwa. And Ramadan is a means by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for me to attain taqwa. And we're going to call this, what are we going to call it? What do you think? What effect are we going to call this? The Barakah effect of Ramadan. We call this the Barakah effect of Ramadan. And we're going to look at just a few aspects of the Barakah potential of Ramadan. Meaning, Allah makes it easy for me to attain taqwa. Allah makes it easy for me to fast with my senses and my limbs. Allah makes it easy for me to fast with my heart. So, he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَمَضَانٌ شَهْرٌ مُبَارَكٌ. Alhamdulillah. He said, Ramadan has come to you, a blessed month. Blessed means that good is easy. Blessed means good is easy, and blessed means that being bad is very, very hard. So, virtue, X. But virtue has what kind of X? Has an exponent X. Virtue becomes very easy because of what Allah Ta'ala places in Ramadan of barakah. And here are some examples. And again, in the context, keep in mind, in the context of fasting with the spirit of Ramadan. So he says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, قَدْ أَظَلَّكُمْ شَهْرٌ عَظِيمٌ مُبَارَكٌ. A great blessed month has come to you. And then he mentions in this month, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, وَمَنْ تَقَرَّبَ فِيهِ بِخَصْلَةٍ. Whoever does a good deed. And a good deed is good action, a good word. A good deed is what? A good feeling, a good emotion, a good thought. كَانَ كَمَنْ أَدَّى فَرِيضَةً فِيمَا سِوَاهُ. In Ramadan, whoever does a beautiful deed, it's like Allah rewards it as like the person did something obligatory. And this is what effect? The Barakah effect. And then he said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, وَمَنْ أَدَّى فَرِيضَةً. And whoever does an obligatory act, كَانَ كَمَنْ أَدَّى سَبْعِينَ فَرِيضَةً فِيمَا سِوَاهُ. It's like someone does 70 fara'id. I do something extra, I get the reward over fard, an obligatory action. I do an obligatory action, and I get the result and the reward of 70 of them. This is the Barakah effect. What else? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, says in a text, in Ramadan, futihat abwabul Jannah. The gates of Jannah are open wide. فَلَمْ يُغْلَقْ مِنْهَا بَابٌ, says one text. فَلَمْ يُغْلَقْ مِنْهَا بَابٌ. No door of Jannah is closed. All the doors of Jannah are open. Meaning what? Good is easy. Jannah is easy. The pathways to Jannah are easy. Allah Ta'ala makes it easy to do khair, to do good. Futihat. And this futihat, by the way, is an emphasis. It's not futihat only in some texts. Futihat, open. They're opened. The doors of Jannah. He says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, وَيُنَادِي فِيهِ مَلَكٌ. In Ramadan, an angel calls out. This angelic voice. All throughout Ramadan, Ya baghi al-khair, abshir. Aqbil in another text. Oh, the doer of good, the one who wants to do good, the angel says, come, do it. The angel, these angelic energies and these angels per se, they're helping us to do good. And Ya baghi shar, and the angel says, oh, you who wants to do evil, aqsir, don't do it. So the angelic voices are amplified in Ramadan. Hatta yanqadiya Ramadan, until the end of Ramadan. It's never been harder to be bad. See, you're going to scale a mountain like that. That's what it's like to do evil in Ramadan. It takes a lot more effort to be bad in Ramadan. As a matter of fact, if I'm bad in Ramadan, that's a terrible sign. It means I'm making a superhuman effort to be evil, because it's so easy to be good. I'm going against my Ramadanic nature. When Ramadan comes, my spiritual DNA is changed. Are you with me? My spiritual DNA is changed. I'm just thinking good, wanting to do good, coming to the masjid for. Of proof of this is what? The masajid, especially in the first days of Ramadan, they've never been more full. That's proof of the angelic voice. Right? He says in a text, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, وَغُلِّقَتْ أَبْوَابُ النَّارِ فَلَمْ يُفْتَحْ مِنْهَا بَابٌ. And the doors of the fire are locked. غُلِّقَتْ. They're not only closed, they're sealed, they're locked. فَلَمْ يُفْتَحْ مِنْهَا بَابٌ. And there is no door to Jahannam that's open. Meaning, all the ways and pathways and avenues to Jahannam are sealed. Which means that if I want to do something evil, what do I practically have to do? Tell me. I have to break the lock. I have to pick the lock. I have to break the lock. I have to break down the door. In order to force myself into Jahannam. To force myself to take a path to Jahannam. I must force myself. But if I just let myself go, I'll be doing and walking all the paths to Jannah. He says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in another text, وَصُفِّدَتْ الشَّيَاطِينُ وَمَرَضَتُ الْجِنِّ. That is, and the ulama, many of them say, all of the devils, all of the shayateen, all of them are chained. All of them are chained, are fettered, are imprisoned in Ramadan because of the barakah effect of Ramadan. And that explains, doesn't it? That explains part of the barakah effect of Ramadan. There are no shayateen let loose, whispering to me, encouraging me, inciting me, invigorating me to do evil. And that means practically that all that is left as a variable in me of evil is my own nafs, my own evil self. Because there are two variables to evil, myself and shaitan. Now Allah Ta'ala is controlling for shaitan. This is the lab of Ramadan. Shaitan is rendered what? Inoperative. He's rendered ineffective. That variable is controlled for those of you in science. That variable is controlled for, which means there's only one variable left, me, my nafs. And therefore, if I'm bad in Ramadan, I can't blame it on shaitan. I blame it on me. I am bad. This is the extent of my nafs. This is my nafs. I take ownership of that and I gain a knowledge of myself. If I fast aware of this, a deeper knowledge of who I am. What's happening in me, the feelings in me, the drives in me, the diseases in me, the impulses in me. Maybe I wasn't aware of that throughout the rest of the year. But Ramadan now makes me very sensitive. I now can see that is me. And when it's me, I make dua. And Ramadan, as he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ثلاثة لا ترد دعوتهم. 3 people, their supplications, their dua are not rejected. الصائم حتى يفطر. The one who's fasting, their dua is always accepted by Allah Ta'ala with the condition of presence of heart and sincerity until they open their fast. We don't want to break the fast by viciously eating. We want to open our fast. So that fasting person at any time can make dua. And that dua, Allah Ta'ala says, is accepted. So as I'm learning about myself, good things, inshallah, and also bad things, I hope, because that's a means of change, then I have the opportunity to turn to Allah Ta'ala in dua throughout the entire stretch of siyam, and to ask Allah to help me, ask Allah to change this that I suddenly realized about myself. Of the barakah of Ramadan, Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me another life in Ramadan. That other life is the barakah of a night that is worth 1,000 months, which means 80 plus years, which means it's another lifetime. Allah gives me another life to live in His ibadah as a gift of Ramadan. Which means, Hafidhukumullah, that whatever I do on that night, it's like I did for 80 years. And whatever positive, purificatory impact, cleansing impact, it's like that cleansing impact has been going on for 80 years. So it's like I wash one stroke. But then it's like I do that washing of my heart for 80 years. That's the Barakah effect of Laylatul Qadr. And imagine washing anything for 80 years. How clean would it be? Dhikr, dua, salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Any act of tazkiyah, any act of cleansing, of ibadah, of qurb to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the power of that is, again, the exponential barakah factor of Ramadan is multiplied. So that is, Hafidhukumullah, some ilm of Ramadan. Some ilm of Ramadan. And what's the envelope? Tell me, what's the envelope? Our brothers and sisters who are over Zoom, what's the envelope through which I must remember this barakah effect of Ramadan? The envelope is, again, remember, seeking the gift of taqwa by fasting in the way that Allah loves, the reality of fasting. And all of these gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easier to attain a high, beautiful degree of taqwa. All of these barakah aspects of Ramadan are to help me, make it easy for me to attain that prize. It's like a wind, when they sprint, when athletes sprint, then if there's a tailwind, a wind that's pushing them, that's over a certain amount, and they break the record, what happens? They don't break the record because they were assisted by this wind in the race. In Ramadan, this wind, these breezes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are going to take me, if I really seek them, if I really want them, going to make me race, going to make me even be astonished at the spiritual potential that Allah gave me. Because I would be able to do that which I didn't think I can do or could do. And then I will see a different version of myself by the barakah of Ramadan. And I will see a different potential. And I'll see a different spiritual horizon that, insha'Allah ta'ala, Allah ta'ala will take me to by the breezes and gifts of Ramadan. Now, that was ilm. Now it's amal. I have to fast in the way intended by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan. So, we're going to look at amal now. And we're going to look at essentially 10 essential aspects of a spiritual routine that everyone, one might say, ought to do in Ramadan in order to fast in the right way and to, inshallah, be eligible by Allah's rahmah for the gift of taqwa. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So I can't go into Ramadan without a plan. I can't go into Ramadan without a schedule of spiritual acts, a spiritual routine. How am I going to help myself fast in those deeper ways in Ramadan? And all of this routine, all of these 10 points are part of what we studied in the seminary in first year and second year, the elements of purification of the heart, drawn from the Quran, drawn from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by the great ulama of our deen. The program, before we look at the spiritual routine, 10, 10, 10. What do I mean 10, 10, 10? 10 days when? 30 days split up into 10, 10, 10. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, وَهُوَ شَهْرٌ أَوَّلُهُ رَحْمَةٌ. The first 10 days is loving mercy. وَوَسَطُهُ مَغْفِرَةٌ. The next 10 days is forgiveness. وَآخِرُهُ عِتْقٌ مِّنَ النَّارِ. And the last 10 days is freedom from the fire. Freedom from the fire of Jahannam, freedom from the fire of myself. Freedom from the fire of Jahannam and freedom from the fire of my nafs. And you can see that Ramadan is a graduated journey. 10, which leads to 10, which leads to 10, which means that my Ramadan is meant to be evolving, growing, deepening. Every moment of Ramadan, from 10 to 10 to 10, I'm fasting in a deeper way, so that the last 10 days of Ramadan, which are i'tikaf, and we discuss that inshallah in our Ramadan gatherings during Ramadan, which is part of the program. I'tikaf is to fully be absorbed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, I'm holding fast to Allah ta'ala and nothing else. And that's the result of 10, 10, 10. Gradually deepening, developing, maturing my fasting, so that at the end, I'm now completely focused and oriented on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that didn't happen when I started. Because remember, it's the medicine of Ramadan. So I'm meant to be deepening my fasting, not fasting at the same level. Are you with me? Not fasting at the same static level, certainly not flatlining, and not also, more importantly, not dipping. Start like this and then 10, 10, 10. Should not be like that. Should not also be 10, 10, 10. It should be 10, 10, 10. Should be going upwards. The spiritual curve should be towards what? Infinity. Towards infinity. So, of this now, what are those 10 aspects? Number 1, fast with your heart. Remember we said, fast with stomach, fast with sexual organs, first level. Second level, fast with the limbs, my senses, my eyes, my ears, my tongue, my hands, my feet. Third level, fasting with the heart. That is to not allow into my heart, my thoughts, my feelings, my will, that which Allah does not love. That's fasting with one's heart. And the ulama, and we studied this for those of you in first year in the seminary, in the advanced elective, we did a module on muraqabah of Allah Ta'ala. That is to be aware that Allah is watching me and my heart. That's muraqabah. To be aware that Allah, the divine gaze, is upon my heart at all times. Allah knows and sees and is vigilant of every level of my being. Nothing is quantized from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this concept of being aware that Allah is watching me, at the deepest level, watching my qalb, watching my heart, my feelings, my ideas, my thoughts, that's called muraqabah. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ رَقِيبًا. Allah is Ar-Raqib, over everything, one of His names, subhana, the ever watchful. So this is being mindful of the divine. This is divine mindfulness, if you like. And it's the same as, you could say, fasting with one's heart. Is that clear? This is very important. Fasting with one's heart. That's why muraqabah is first on the list. That's why muraqabah is first on the list. Because it is, if you like, synonymous with fasting with one's heart. Meaning, as some of the ulama say, I am the door person to my heart. I become the soldier of my heart in me. And I don't let into my heart anything that Allah prohibits. Any feeling, any thought, any image, I do not allow into my heart anything that Allah prohibits. I become the doorman or the doorwoman of my heart. And when I protect my heart like that, in this awareness and consciousness of Allah Ta'ala, I will subsequently, finish what I say, I will subsequently protect my limbs. Because what I do and what I say are the result of my thoughts and emotions. If I watch them, I won't express thoughts and emotions as words. I won't express thoughts and emotions and will as action. So it starts here. Now, we don't need to know at our practical level, we don't need to know a deeper discussion of muraqabah, except this. It is to remind myself that Allah, in His majesty, in His greatness, in His beauty, in His power, in His fearsomeness, in His generosity, is watching my qalb, my heart. That's essentially what it is. And just like you don't need to be told to concentrate in an exam, there's no lecture, there's no class on how to concentrate when I'm writing an exam. Like that, the way to be in muraqabah is to just do it. Make it important and remind myself how many times a day? How many? Once? Hundreds of times a day. Remind myself hundreds of times a day when I forget. Allah is watching. And when I forget, I reset. It's as easy as that. Please do not ask how. It's as easy as that. I remind myself and I reset when I forget. Allah is watching. Number 2, I fast with my limbs. That's the second level of fasting. So we have to build it into our schedule. First thing to do, every day, fast with the heart, aka muraqabah. 2, fast with my limbs. I'm calling this mujahada. Mujahada means to make an effort. Meaning, I guard my eyes, I guard my hands, I guard my tongue, 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 I guard my fingers. There are extensions of my tongue as they type on WhatsApp or Telegram, as they post on Facebook and Instagram. I guard my tongue, fingers. And that, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is of the things that destroys us quickest, the tongue, and now in this day and age, the fingers. I guard that. I guard my legs where I walk to, guard my ears what I listen to. And I do that with effort. That takes effort. But if I'm fasting with my heart, it will be much, much easier. Number 2, Salah. I focus in my Salah. And if I'm aware that Allah is watching me, which is the first part of the routine, Salah is going to become much easier. I'm aware that Allah is watching me in my Salah. I keep my heart focused in my Salah. He said, or it's a text, As-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. Salah is the heavenly ascension of the believer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Yes, Salah is the ascension of the believer, and the believer is successful, but the condition is what? The condition of the ascension is the believer's heart is in khushur, in Salah. The believer's heart is aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Salah. Practically speaking, what does that mean? Don't rush my Salah. And focus on the meanings of what I say. Don't rush my Salah. Focus on the meanings of what I say. And number 3, be in a state of awareness that Allah is watching me in my Salah. Number 4, the 4th aspect of our program. And we're agreeing to do it, right? Right? At least this, if not more. You can add, but at least this. You can add, but at least this. The 4th one, journey through the Quran. A relationship with the Quran in Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. Some of the ulama say the place and the space is blessed by the deed, by the divine gift of the place. So Ramadan is blessed by the fact the Quran was revealed in it. Yes, Ramadan is blessed and the Quran was revealed in it, but Ramadan is blessed because the Quran was revealed in it. So Allah Ta'ala says, the month of Ramadan, the month in which the Quran was revealed, Hudan linnas, it's a guidance for people. Huda is a guidance. Huda is a light. Think of Huda is a light. Huda is a spiritual light. If I have guidance, I can see. That's Huda. It's a nur. When Allah grants me Huda, I can see things clearly. I can know my way. I can know where to go. Allah Ta'ala says, Hudan linnasi wa bayyinatin min al-huda. It's Huda and it's proofs of Huda. It's guidance, it's that light, but it's that light that is really perfectly clear. Because I can have guidance and still not have a very clear light. Ever had that? Been camping? And you had a light, flashlight, and you couldn't see more than what? And you wished you brought a more powerful flashlight. So you can have Huda, but Huda is not enough. Bayyinati min al-Huda. Clear, perfected, definitive proofs of guidance. And then Furqan is, now I can see exactly what's right and wrong. Now I can see exactly what's right and wrong. And this is all enveloped in Ramadan and the Quran. The intent of Ramadan is, when I leave Ramadan, I should be able to see myself and the world crystal clear. Right, wrong. And I should be able to also see what? Shades. because the world is not just black and white. Shades, I should be able to see, yes, the monochromatic scheme, black and white, but also I should be able to see the shades. And that's my engagement with the Quran in Ramadan. So I have to engage with the Quran in Ramadan, number 4. Number 5, dua like you are drowning. Dua in Ramadan. It's inconceivable that I go through Ramadan without plenty of dua. That's terrible. Not some dua or dua because the Imam makes the dua, but regular dua during the day. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times during the day to be in dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we know dua is accepted and dua is encouraged and accepted and beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, dua like you are drowning, because we don't have much time, we only have an hour and a half. This refers to a text of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he said, there's going to come a time, and some say we are entering this time, if not in this time, in which no one will be saved except the one who makes dua like a drowning person. Meaning, truly knowing that only Allah gives, and not trusting my resources more than I trust Allah. Indeed, not trusting my resources inherently, but trusting Allah Ta'ala. And dua is the best means to take material and non-material together. The best means to take for change. So dua like you are drowning, and many of you know when Allah Ta'ala speaks about the ayat of Ramadan and Siyam, Allah Ta'ala includes within the discussion of Ramadan and part of the fiqh of Ramadan, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. When Allah Ta'ala speaks about Ramadan, Allah Ta'ala ends the ahkam. Allah Ta'ala is speaking about the legal aspects of Ramadan, and then Allah Ta'ala, in the middle of the discussion of Ramadan, Allah Ta'ala says, when my servants ask about me, say I am near. Ujibu da'wat ad-da'i idha da'in. I respond to the supplication of the one who calls upon me, to tell me and enforce and emphasize the importance of dua in Ramadan. How do I make dua? Simple. Dua with my heart. Speak to Allah with my heart. Speak to Allah with a heart that is aware. Speak to Allah with your emotions. Your dua, my words should just simply be the fruits of the emotions that are behind that dua. That dua should be, if we can translate it, it should be emotional language. The heart should be speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 6 of our wird. Build a special relationship with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam through abundant salawat. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings upon His beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's included as part of Ramadan. Because how do we learn muraqabah? How do we learn dua? How did we learn salah? How did we receive the Quran? All through him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And that he is the door to Allah Ta'ala for us of every khair. There is no khair, no good that anyone experiences as a Muslim. And we can even extend that to non-Muslims as well. Except that it didn't come through him as ordained and created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, the stronger my relationship with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, the stronger my relationship with Allah is. And one of the easiest ways to build that relationship is to send salawat upon him. sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Then he tells one of the companions, if you send abundant salawat upon me, then tukfa hammak, all your worries will be taken care of. Ay Sidi Muhammad, then tukfa hammak, all your worries will be taken care of. وَيُغْفَرْ ذَنْبَكَ, and all of your وَيُغْفَرْ ذَنْبُكَ, and all of your sins will be erased. Salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How many worries do we have? Worries, under worries comes the subset of every challenge in life. No? Every challenge in life is a worry, is it not? Every trial, challenge, tribulation is a worry. So, tukfa hammak means all of them are taken care of by what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed to come through him sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Number 7, be selective in your suhbah. Allah ta'ala says, many of you know, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqin, as we've reminded ourselves of, and as we wish and strive to live to be a community of those who are sincere in seeking Allah. Allah says, O you who believe, have taqwa. And taqwa is what? What we want in Ramadan. Have taqwa. How do I get taqwa? Kunu ma'as sadiqin. Be with those who are sincere in seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, positive suhbah, good suhbah, positive suhbah is essential to attaining taqwa and is the best of the best, and some say the best and fastest means to attaining taqwa. And therefore, the time we spend in Ramadan socially should be spent with good suhbah, beneficial suhbah, friends, gatherings that can help me in my relationship with Allah, and practically speaking, to fast in the way I'm supposed to fast at those 3 levels. And I include here, Hafidhakumullah, suhbah includes making sure that I have, if I do have virtual suhbah, that virtual digital suhbah is good, not harmful. Because many of us, unfortunately, we don't consider the digital space, the digital world, we don't consider it as suhbah. But it is fellowship, it is companionship, and it's much more serious, much more dangerous, much more harmful, much more perilous, much more accessible, much more easy to fall into, much more power to shape our minds and influence our minds. And to emphasize, sometimes in this life, when we find that those who we know and love are straying or have strayed, oftentimes it's because of the influence in the digital world. Oftentimes you can trace that either the main factor or a significant factor. Either the main factor or significant factor. And as Muslims, we need to wake up to the harmful effects of this suhbah and not continue to be naive and laissez-faire and blasé about it like it's not important. It is essential for us and for our children and for our families. So be selective in your suhbah. Number 8, take time alone every day. And all of these 10 points, we're going to go next and give some details. These are the important points, and then within them, they are action items. Some of the points are themselves action items, but some of them require action items. Take time alone every day to ponder the quality of my fasting. In that time alone, called khalwa, time alone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I can do so many things. And it's so important for my mental health, intellectual health, psychological health, and most importantly, spiritual health. To be alone, to disconnect from the noise around me. So much noise. And I can be in dhikr, I can be in dua, I can read Quran, I can ponder myself, I can ponder Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes. But in Ramadan, this time, most importantly, to ponder the quality of my fasting. Am I fasting at the first level? Am I fasting at the second level? Am I fasting at the third level? Where are the bottlenecks? Where are the impediments? Where are the challenges? If I don't do that every day in a formal way, because for most of us, if we don't sit to do it, we won't do it. Probably very few can do it in the course of the day, and they don't have to sit and do it. If I don't sit to do it, after a while, I'll forget about the other dimensions of fasting. Rest assured. And then I will be fasting at the necessary level, but the grade 1 level. Grade 1 fasting, high school fasting, university fasting, if you like that analogy. Grade 1 fasting, high school fasting, university fasting, or postgraduate fasting, if you like. Right? I don't want to be fasting at a grade 1 level. How long will I fast at the grade 1 level? And so I need to remind myself, make sure entropy doesn't take over, and then I slide back down to my old habits of fasting. Number 9, be charitable and serving. Of the beautiful characteristics and virtues of the heart, of the beautiful ones, of the most beautiful are to be generous, to be charitable, to give. Money, yes. Resources, yes. Emotions, time, assistance. It was described that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam kana ajwad an-nas. He was the most generous. The most generous. If he didn't have and you needed, he would borrow it for you and absorb the debt himself. Imagine? If he didn't have something, if you asked him for something, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and if he didn't have it, he would borrow it, give it to you, and assume the debt himself, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that description of him all the time, and in Ramadan, he was described as more generous. He was, كان أجود بالخير من الريح المرسلة. The fast, swift blowing wind, he was more generous in doing khair, giving, ibadah, dhikr, service to others, helping others, giving of our money, giving of our aid. And there's no end of where we can give to help our brothers and sisters. And secondly, khidmah, to serve. Of the most important akhlaq lacking in our lives and in our families' lives is service. Learning to serve. So these, hafidhukumullah, are emphasized as important aspects of gaining taqwa. And then lastly, fast with your family. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. And it's the same verb, protect yourself with taqwa. And protect your family with taqwa. Are you with me? Qu anfusakum. How do I protect myself? Same verb, same root letters as taqwa. I protect myself with taqwa. How do I protect my family? By helping them and me attain taqwa. So to find creative ways to remind one another about the reality of fasting and to be in ibadah together, to wake up together for suhoor, to pray fajr together if we're already awake. Other aspects of ibadah. Now, are you okay? Did we go too fast? Forgive me, because of time, we could go slower, but because of time. Now, that's the general plan. The 10 principles. Okay? You can, I can, we can add to that. You can personalize your plan. You can add other aspects. You want to do more, don't do less. I remind myself, don't do less. But you can do more. So you can personalize your plan. And here, only to mention the students of the seminary, you could add, and many of you should add, adhkar after Salah. Many of you should add the morning and evening adhkar. Many of you should add making sure we read Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays. And many of us should add, especially those who are in second year, salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on Fridays, at least 1,000. At least 1,000 on Fridays. Now, what is the wird in detail? So we're going to look at those 10 principles of the spiritual routine. A spiritual routine, by the way, in Arabic, in our Islamic language, is called a wird. Wird simply means a spiritual routine, a spiritual litany, meaning the things I'm going to do and I'm regular about doing. That's what a wird is. So this routine, now we're going to go over it one by one in a little bit of detail. The first one is muraqabah, which is to be in a state where I'm always reminding myself Allah is watching my heart. That says it all. Number 2, make sure I fast with my senses. Be aware of my senses fasting. I want to make sure my hands fast, my legs fast, my ears fast, my tongue fast. That says it all as well. Now about Salah. Some details. Of course, the Fard Salah. And included in this are the emphasized Sunnah. The emphasized Sunnah. I think almost everyone in Turkey I know praise it. It's part of the culture. The emphasized Sunnah, 2 Sunnah before Fajr, 2 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr, 2 after Maghrib, 2 after Isha. Witr Salah. That goes without saying if you live in Turkey. And also Taraweeh. Taraweeh should be part of the schedule. Either 20 rak'ah or at minimum 8. But if you're here and you're Turk, of course you're not going to accept 8. At minimum 8. But ideally 20, and if you can't pray it in the masjid, then at home. Quran. Details. A bit of Quran every day. A page, 2 pages, a quarter of a juz, a portion of Quran every day in Ramadan. Number 2, reflect on the meanings of the Quran, even if it's 1 ayah, or 2 or 3, or you set aside 5 minutes to reflect on the meaning of what you read. Make sure we build into our routine an aspect of engaging spiritually with the Quran through its meanings. And that's up to you, your comfort, my comfort. And number 3, those who are able to and are fluent enough to work towards at least 1 khatma of the Quran, 1 reading of the Quran through Ramadan, at least 1 khatma. Some can do more, but if you are sufficiently fluent in reading the Arabic, 1 reading of the Quran in Ramadan. Number 5, dua. Three things. One is before Fajr. That's called Sahar time. And it's very virtuous. That's when Allah Ta'ala is saying, who wants to be forgiven, so I forgive. Who wants to be given, so I give. That time, before Fajr, schedule your sahur, schedule your pre-dawn meal in such a way that I have some time, at least 5 minutes, 7 minutes, to be in sincere dua. I have to make it so. Number two, before Maghrib, because that's also a time when Allah Ta'ala gives 5 minutes before Maghrib to be in dua, focused dua, and twice during the day besides that. That's how many times? 4. That's the basics. Twice any time, easiest time after Salah, after Fajr, after Dhuhr, after Asr, after Maghrib, after Isha, to be in Salah. Salawat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam 200 times daily. Sahba, I'm going to go fast because we're running out of time. Emphasize beneficial fellowship. Only use the digital world for necessity or need. Only use your devices when you have to or when you need to. Number 8, take 10 minutes a day to ponder the quality of your fasting. Number 9, regular service to others and regular charity. And number 10, fast with your family in the sense of reminding each other of the spirit of fasting and to be in ibadah together. And we have all of this put on a document. It's all listed on a document that runs for a week, as you can see. So you can have access to the document and you can keep track of these 10 points and the details that were just mentioned. And lastly, Suhbah. So this is meant to be a sort of an introductory seminar to Ramadan. How can we fast in the true way Ramadan would like us to fast? Allah would like us to fast in Ramadan through Suhbah. There are a number of aspects to Suhbah. Number 1, we have a Ramadan support group on Telegram. You can sign up for that with this QR code. And there's also are there sheets going around? Just one? And one for the sisters. Jazakallah khairan. You can sign up for the Ramadan spiritual support group. On that group, we will share reflections with one another. Some of the teachers of the seminary will post from time to time reflections and perhaps even remind us about the virtues of Ramadan. Number 2, during Ramadan, we have 3 gatherings together of 1 hour. In those gatherings of 1 hour, we're going to remind ourselves of fasting with our hearts, fasting with our senses. And we're going to be in ibadah together. We're going to recite some Quran together. We're going to sit still in muraqabah together, in divine mindfulness together. And that's to keep the momentum going. So in the first 3 weeks of Ramadan, we have this in conjunction with meal. We have this Ramadan halqa, fellowship together to keep the momentum. Number 3, on that Telegram group, we'll post the Ramadan checklist, the Ramadan wird. That Ramadan wird, inshallah, you please do use it as a way of day-to-day keeping track, keeping score, keeping spiritual score, keeping track of the most essential aspects of our program. And then lastly, on that Ramadan spiritual support group, we're going to post a a series on the inner dimensions of fasting by our teacher, Sheikh Mukhtar Maghrawi, in which he discusses in depth the inner dimensions of fasting. Because between now and Ramadan, we have probably 2 or so, maybe more, actually 3 weeks or so. So that's a good time to focus and prepare. I cannot enter Ramadan like a switch. It requires preparation. The Sahaba would prepare a year before. Sha'ban is all about preparing for Ramadan. Shawwal is about preparing for Ramadan. And so during this month of preparation, we should be fasting a bit to get ready for Ramadan. We should also be, hafidhakumullah, starting the program so that when Ramadan comes, it's a seamless transition into Ramadan. If I started in Ramadan only, it's going to be difficult to continue. So I need to start now. If you like, Ramadan starts now, actually. Ramadan starts now. And lastly, the 15th of this month, Nisfu Sha'ban. The 15th of Sha'ban is a very, very auspicious spiritual event that's celebrated beautifully here in Istanbul. But Allah is preparing me for Ramadan because on the 15th of Sha'ban, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the text taught to us by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah looks into the hearts of the believers and Allah forgives except the ones that have in their heart evil or a grudge or malice or bad feeling towards others. And Allah mentions other aspects of whom will not be forgiven. And so this mid of Ramadan is a way to empty the cup of my heart so that it is filled in Ramadan. The mid of Sha'ban is a way to empty myself, to forgive, to overlook, to pardon, to ask Allah Ta'ala to clean my heart of any negative feeling towards others. Those who have wronged me, forgive them, pardon, overlook, and then come to Ramadan with a heart that's clean and ready to receive. Jazakumullah khairan. We stop there. Please do sign up for the support Telegram group. Please do join us, inshallah. Give us your barakah throughout Ramadan with those 3 sessions every week. Please do use the wird checklist, and please let us keep all of our brothers and sisters in our dua, Muslims all over the world, especially those who are in very, very difficult circumstances, and May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us Ramadan. May Allah ta'ala make Ramadan a very generous guest, and may we be of the ashab of taqwa. May we be of those who are gifted the gift of taqwa after Ramadan, and may our Eid be an Eid of qurb. May Allah Ta'ala make our Eid an Eid of special nearness with Him and with His Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka Allahumma wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.